Beng, who joins us from London. Phar, thank you so much for your time. The Chief Executive, Carrie Lam, already, obviously, she had to say something after the results, and she has said, I'm going to listen to the opinions of members of the public humbly and seriously reflect. Do you think she's going to make any concessions to the Pan-Democratic Alliance?
Well, some kind of concessions would have to be inevitable because you have such a large majority of people coming out to vote and ensuring that their preferences and their feelings are all registered at the ballots. So if she wants to continue to win the hearts and mind of the Hong Kong people, which is extremely crucial to her sustaining and retaining her tenure in Hong Kong, she would have to make some kind of concessions out of the 5 demands.
What do you think the reaction is going to be in Beijing? And also, concurrently with that, how much autonomy, if at all, might Carrie Lam have if she's going to enter into any negotiations with the Pan-Democratic people?
That's a very, very good question. I think over the last 3 months, given the scale and the size of the riots, occasionally which went uncontrollable, I think there's very little that Carrie Lam can continue to project any moral authority on Hong Kong or over Hong Kong. And the same applies to China, because whenever you have chaos in Hong Kong, the concept of one country, 2 political systems don't seem to cohere. And that reflects very badly on Beijing or Beijing's ability to provide the room to permit Hong Kong to remain autonomous as 2 systems. So the election is actually a huge rebuke against Beijing or over the ways in which Beijing has handled Hong Kong, perhaps not just over the last 100 days, but probably over the last 20 years, if not more so.
Yeah, but of course, obviously, we're now at a critical stage, and you mentioned one country, 2 systems. One of the things, just one of the guarantees that it gives Hong Kong is an independent judiciary. That judiciary, last week, saying that the ban on face masks is illegal, and Beijing has already reacted to that. It's hinting that it could change Hong Kong's constitution. Do you think that might happen? That would be a huge step.
That might actually well happen because unknown to a lot of people, there are actually many labor protests over wages, over living conditions in their factories all over China. And sometimes they could reach a few 100,000 a year. It's just that it's not well reported in the academic literature or the press. So China is actually a country that is extremely stable, but at the same time has many seismic fault lines in the social, economic, and political system. So when Hong Kong is expressing such a large reaction against Beijing, and they have shown it in the election, it means that the leaders in Beijing would have to be more delicate and sensitive to the feelings of the people at large, not just the people in Hong Kong.
And I suppose the other critical issue here could be the feeling amongst those people who have been coming out onto the streets, the ones who are covering their faces and throwing petrol bombs, using bow and arrows, the ones who are right on the front line, who have been talking about how they're making the situation more violent because peaceful protests haven't worked. How much time might they give Carrie Lam and any negotiations that the chief executive could enter into? How much time might they allow before they come out again and start making trouble? Because if they make trouble, it may just make Carrie Lam say, OK, well, this is the way you want to play it, then I'm not going to make any concessions.
Well, that's a very, very, very good question again. Well, in any social movement or protest, you'll have the radicals, you'll have the sympathizers, and you have the supporters. The standard operating procedure of any police authority is to try to divide them so that they can become more manageable. So in the case of Hong Kong, with the prolonged demonstration, it's very clear that Carrie Lam or the Hong Kong Police Authority has failed in the strategy of what is known as divide and conquer. So they haven't been able to separate the radicals away from the sympathizers nor the supporters. And when you fail in the execution of that broad strategy, then obviously what you see is constant and continued protests that manifest in both the most peaceful and also the most violent form.
Phar Beng, really appreciate your time. So interesting to hear your analysis. Thank you so much.